Hello and welcome to the Happy Weight podcast. I'm so excited to be back. This feels like I haven't recorded one of these, and especially with you, Trisha, in ages and ages and ages. So we, yeah, I said your name weird, but no, this time last year on Paddy's Day we were in Clon. And we recorded one, and I'd swear that was the last. We did the morning before I went to the parade.
Oh, yes.
We did. And now it's a year later, and it's the day after Paddy's Day, and here we are again.
Yeah, that was a really beautiful one, yeah.
Yeah. So welcome, Trisha.
Thanks for having me back.
No problem. I love chatting with you. And today's topic is happy exercise, because I kind of think if we want a happy weight, which I would define as a stable, healthy, ideal weight that, as in stable, stays around forever, that's done in an easy, light, enjoyable way, well, then I think we need a happy relationship with food, and we need a happy relationship with exercise. So I kind of think disordered eating disorders, and weight problems have a lot of severity in them. There's a lot of like under-eating, overeating, cutting all of those foods out, or having a cheat day and eating all of those foods, or doing no exercise and then signing up to like a 10k or something when you've done no running in ages. You know, it's a lot of severity. So I kind of think weight issues are a lot of like an approach of sharp and short-lived. And then I think if we really want to let go of eating and weight issues, we have to kind of pivot over to mild and moderate, but forever. You know, mild and moderate, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our muscles, taking care of our belly, how that feels, how our stomach feels, taking care of our taste buds, not eating anything that doesn't taste that nice, and being happy with mild and moderate but consistent. So you're quite in that region of exercise, I would say, Trisha.
Sometimes.
And you're more qualified on this than me. You're an actual yoga teacher, so
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means though, you know, like I think
it means you can teach yoga.
it does, from a literal sense, yoga, but it means, you know, I don't think you need a certification to be qualified to understand what your body needs, you know. Like I think that I definitely did yoga before I became a teacher, and I did it in an extreme way, you know. I think it's how you are internally, and there are yoga teachers who do it in an extreme way, you know. It doesn't mean just because you have a cert that you're.
Well, you kind of made a good point earlier when we were talking about this, that like maybe at a time in your life, say in your 20s and stuff, when like you were severe on the outside, you know, maybe putting a lot of stress and pressure on yourself in many areas of your life. Also, that kind of was how you exercised as well. It was like stress and pressure, and like stress and pressure is pretty much, I would say, the opposite of kindness, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not a kind approach anyway.
You know, I think it's like when we feel a lot of internal distress or maybe discomfort, which can be physical, but it also can be emotional or mental, when we maybe have a lot of shame or expectation on ourselves. We think that the answer to that intensity is more intensity. Yeah. And so it's the same way, like around that time I would have exercised really intensely, ran on roads and like done really extreme like treadmilling and like, you know, really extreme like food restriction, and like it was all an attempt to alleviate the feeling of inside me, you know, and
running from it almost, literally, wasn't it?
Just control, and that comes from a part of us that's very wounded but also very young, you know. It's almost like a small part of us, our small inner self, our inner child that's wounded, is doing those things, which is why it kind of feels like not like a mature decision. You know, when you're stressed, the answer obviously when you're in a calm place is not to add more stress to the scenario, right? But when you're stressed, you reach for more intensity almost to like counteract it from a wounded place, right? And so that's what the intensity of like binge eating or like not eating or like intense exercise or like no exercise. And so when we ourselves become more regulated, more self attuned and more caring to ourselves, we make choices from a more adult place, you know, a less wounded place. And so that place would be like a mother dealing with a child rather than a child dealing with another child, you know. So it's like your own inner mother says, you really need nurturing now.
Which is also present versus erratic. Do you know what I mean? Because the present choice, like you say, the mothering thing, you know, just like a mother might be like, you go up now and have a nap or something. Like that's a very present choice that will currently help you. Whereas I kind of think an erratic, like you say, child minding a child would be like, but you haven't done any exercise, so go exercise. And it's like, that mightn't actually be the best thing for how you're going to feel in 2 hours. I don't know if you've other stuff going on or whatever. It mightn't actually be the kind present choice.
Yeah. And like that, you know, we can't shame ourselves if we haven't developed that internal nurturing or that internal mother, you know, like that's something that we have to learn. If we didn't learn it young, we have to learn it at an older age. So we may be making decisions that may look erratic, but actually it's really the best that we can do in that scenario because we know nothing else.
Yeah.
And so knowing that actually that intensity and that stress or that intense shame or pain, really, like inner torment, like that actually doesn't have to be how you live. It actually, there's another way to live, and that's available for you by making different choices, you know, small iterative changes. It's not like it happened overnight, you know.
No.
And so like definitely I did do yoga, like Bikram yoga, like banging it out of the park, like 3 times a week, like so intense. And then, you know, I started to do somatic therapy and train in yoga and retrain my nervous system. And so with more capacity in my body and more gentleness for myself, I made different choices over time, right?
And you really need that flexibility in health. Like, as in, I just literally don't think there's any way to be, like, in a sustained way, healthy, fit, at the weight you want to be, unless there's flexibility. Because black and white thinking is that I should always eat salads, I should always exercise, I should never eat chocolate, I should never rest on the couch. And then minding your body is just like say if you had a book on minding babies, when you actually have a baby, you're not gonna like follow the letter of the law in that book because your baby is unique. And it's the same with our body, that it's kind of like we have to be like super suitable to today. Like, what's the right choice for me today? Because it is just that whole thing in terms of comfort. Say sometimes having chocolate will be a kind choice, sometimes it will be a cruel choice. Sometimes going to the gym is the kindest thing you could do for yourself. Like going in there, and for me anyway, bopping away to my tunes and, you know, wearing nice sporty stuff and sitting in the car afterwards feeling nice. That's such a kind feeling to give myself in the day. And then, you know, but then also, you know, say if it's the old way I used to exercise, which was like, you're doing it, don't even think about it, don't even question it. Like, come on, fatty, get out the door. You're getting in there. Like, I remember literally being kind of like, you are going to stay in that gym for 40 minutes. No matter how much you want to get out of there, no matter how much, there is no excuse big enough. You are not leaving there. Like, so harsh. And just even physically as well, like, it mightn't be the right answer. And especially for weight, like, sometimes, like, I would say there's a lot of times where a nap or sleep is more important for weight loss than exercise. A lot. Because if we're wrecked and we do a workout and then we're grumpy all day because we're super sleep deprived, like, sleep deprivation makes emotional eating or comfort eating like a huge, like, really, really likely. You know, if we're already prone to emotional eating, being tired is and it's not even wrong. You couldn't even say it's wrong. It's us looking for comfort. There, so just like that flexibility, anyways, what I'm saying there is like the kind of, there's no one right answer for a Thursday or a Saturday or whatever. It's reading your body, and also what you said there just reminded me of like, the way like you were kind of saying we shouldn't shame ourselves if we're not at that compassionate place. Like I think contrast is really handy as well, because, just almost like testing our thoughts or measuring them. Like say if we're like, get out the door fatty, and then you're kind of like, okay, would you say that to a friend? And I know that's such a overused concept of like, would you say that to a friend? But just ultimately like, no, would you? No, I wouldn't. Okay, why wouldn't you? Oh, because it's not actually very inspiring or motivating or helpful in any way. So just even from a results focused mindset, that's not going to get you results, being mean. And so that's what and like I always say it, it's like a lot of my stuff can seem kind of like, like happiness and self-love and whatever. Like if there was another way to lose weight and keep it off in a sustainable way, by God, I'd be doing it. Yeah. Like I'd be doing it. Yeah. Like as in like I'm obsessed with results for myself and for clients. So I really am doing this way because it's literally what gets the best results,
I think there's a couple of things coming in from what you're saying there. One of them is, that inner critic, and that external lens, right? Where you're being mean to yourself because of maybe voices that you had learned from a young age, or else, wanting external validation by being skinnier or by being a better, whatever version of you. You're like, get out and do the exercise so you can be more, I don't know, attractive, fit into better clothes. I don't know, whatever the reason is. But actually, the antidote to it all, and actually this is like really everything that I do in my life and everything I teach and every circle that I hold, is always about coming inward and actually meeting yourself. And when we can actually hear ourselves, really like hear ourselves, like that's the antidote, because that voice is not you.
Yeah.
That mean
if voice, you can hear it, it's not you.
It's not you, but like when you can actually be with the body, which is a different thing. I think it's a different thing that we're not taught. Well, I wasn't taught, but being with the body actually allows you to attune to present moment needs.
Yeah.
But actually getting into the body involves coming out of that stress, trauma-induced, extremist, black and white place. Yeah. And actually into the more present moment, because that, trauma is always past, right? Yeah. But it's the past that's present in the body. Yes. And so it's active. And so when we think we'll be better, safer, more loved if we're a different weight, that's trauma.
And
right?
It's the mind again.
It's the mind.
Because it's like you have well, I'm like resistant to saying the word beautiful because I just know people will reject it. But like, it's all relative. Like we do all have a beautiful body and we are all blessed. And 99% of the people that I work with can go out and do a job every day. Yeah. They can mind kids, or like they're healthy enough to do all of those things. So if we can do those things, we're already way ahead of the curve in terms of like luck and health, and it's like we're disregarding all of that when we go into the mind and we kind of say, I'll be happy when, because we're disregarding all that we have today. Present, and that's what I kind of think about weight loss as well, or becoming our happy weight is it's like changing that from I will be happy when I'm lighter, which therefore means we go around today being like, this body sucks. We miss a load of opportunities to take care of it. We throw it under the bus a million times because this isn't the finished product. We're looking at it like that. Versus, wow, I have this. This is enough. Let's really help it. Let's help it reach its potential. Let's listen to it. Let's hear what it needs. and I'm always saying to clients as well, because it was really a realization I had, like, our body is the victim of our mind. Like it's doing a phenomenal job, you know, like as in, if we do weird diets, if we do overeating, under exercising, whatever, our body has to make do with all of those decisions and try and make good of them. You know what I mean? And so, like, I kind of think that, you know, say a lot of the people I would have worked with, they might be dieting for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So, you know, it's the same realization as myself at a certain point. It's like, okay, let's look at the stats. You know, say at the time, maybe I was late 20s, early 30s. I've been dieting since I was 11. I've been fluctuating in a 3 stone range. I've had on and off bulimia. Like by my late 20s, early 30s, I still binge it from time to time. So it's like my mind has lost the right to, you know, be the one I go to kind of think, what should I do next with eating and weight? It's lost its right to do that because I have given my mind every opportunity to, you know, sort out my eating and weight. And here I am, not remotely the weight I want to be, not remotely the kind of eating I want to have. So I think at that point we have to be like, okay, you're out. Like, because the same mind that's kind of like, sure, go on, you've had a hard week, finish all the crisps, is then half an hour later when you're changing your clothes being like, your belly is so fat. Like, what's wrong with you? So it's like, you cannot trust the mind. Whereas your body, like, it's actually pretty direct. Like, you're cold or you're not cold. You need to go to the loo or you don't. You're hungry or you're not hungry. It tastes nice or it doesn't. Like, as in, you're full or you're not full. Like, there's no second guessing, you know? Whereas the mind will just muddle.
I know, but you see the mind, like those parts of the mind are all survival parts that were developed because of early childhood stuff or, you know, young things, right? So our primary position is to survive.
Yep.
And so the development of those techniques and those beliefs in the mind were actually as a result of something that we felt would help us survive better, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know, you know, for me as a woman, like, it's definitely like, I learned when you're skinnier and prettier, you're more likely to be loved, and when you're loved, then you're safe and secure, right?
Yeah.
And that's the link.
Yeah.
And that's like society all over. Like, there's no escaping that.
Yeah.
And so, you know, then that means it's a literal means of survival to stress your body out by doing over exercising and under eating.
Yeah.
Because you're like in such a survival mode that really you must feel under deep threat. You must feel, you know, very little love in your body, in your life, in yourself. And so really that's such a hard place to be, that to have the understanding that compassion is the antidote won't make sense. Yeah. Because you're in such a state of self-rejection. Yeah. And self-hatred. That compassion is like, I don't even deserve compassion.
It's so unfamiliar though. Yeah. Like, I remember that at the start of all my personal development, I was like, I just literally what are you actually talking about? And I think sometimes the easiest is like, okay, how do you love someone else? No, like, that's the standard. If you, like, you know, because yet again, I think love is really smart. Like, when we're being really loving to a baby or a toddler, like when they're learning to walk and they keep falling down, we're like, come on, Petty, and you can do it. Like, we're innately doing that for good results. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's the knowing that
we deserve that too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of wisdom in treating ourselves that way. Do you know? One thing I kind of wanted to hit on as well is the kind of 2 seconds. I suppose the kind of I think there's I know what I was going to say. Sorry. Do you know, because you were kind of saying the kind of toxic culture of say like skinny equals happy or whatever, and I'm just like, that's just so like reflected every day, you know, those Slimming Club magazines and there's these women on it and it's like, I've lost 3 stone, my life has changed or whatever, and you know, then realistic follow-up, 90% of those people who've lost weight in a slimming club in 1 year, 2 years time, they're going to have regained the weight and more. And that's why like the diet cycle is so toxic, because, you know, it's kind of almost like if we believe our fans, we believe our critics. Like if we're kind of like, I am an amazing person for losing weight, well then we're like, I am a piece of trash for gaining weight. And that's why actually weight problems can really stick the more judgy we are. Because, do you know, like, and I remember even when I had all my diet issues, say like my boyfriend or whatever, sure, he'd go on holidays and he'd gain weight, but like it would all just drift off him again when we'd come home from holidays, like, because he wasn't judgy, he didn't have fear, he didn't have shame, he didn't have anything like that. And like, so it's just really ironic that when we've a lot of shame about weight gain, it means in a way we can never be slim, because weight gain is a natural part of the year. It's a natural part of life, and our body doing kind things, and we can never control it. You know, we wouldn't want to control it. You know, like that whole thing that like our potassium levels are changing during our period. Our potassium levels, if they go way wrong, they can stop our heart. So we're absorbing water and retaining more water to stabilize our potassium levels so our heart doesn't stop. So, you know, that water retention is kind, and it's just the same with everything. But yeah, so I kind of think that's that whole cycle of shame with the regain and shame about fat. And, you know, like one of my clients was telling me about an interview with, you know, that show, Operation Transformation, which is a total like obesity porn.
It's awful.
Yeah, so it's like, for anyone who doesn't know it, it's like there's experts or professionals or whatever, and they do the whole like overweight people pulling a tire or something to lose weight, and on diets, and, you know, just kind of
very hard to watch.
It's all like, it is hard to watch. For me, like that's like, I haven't watched many episodes, so I mightn't be accurately explaining it, because it hurts me so much to even see clips of it. But supposedly there was an interview with loads of the people who'd been on it, and they were like, the whole country is behind you losing the weight. And then they're like, like all the participants in this interview in January anyway, on News Talk or whatever, like a load of them had really put back on the weight and more, which is usual from crash diets. And they were like, so considering all the country was celebrating you as you're losing weight, well then there's an equal amount of shame and failure now that you've regained it all. Like, so it's like, fast weight loss actually creates a bigger obstacle, because then the shame at the end of it for regaining it is just another block and another delay.
I think what's really hard for me is in just an awareness space, not non-judgmentally, in those programs, there's obviously a lot of emotional stuff underneath the weight.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like...
And lifestyle stuff, like, do you know what I mean?
Just those but like the reasons for the weight is usually linked to, you know, like Louise Hay, you know, I'm trained in the Louise Hay stuff, and she would always say, you know, a weight would be linked to protection, that you literally pad yourself from the world, that there's so much pain that you just can't hold it. You know, that you actually like pad yourself. And so when I see programs like that, you know, there's so much emotional stuff underneath it. It feels nearly wrong to watch it, because I'm like, this is not for us to watch the unraveling of this pain and then to give them goals on top of it. Like it's
absolute neglect.
It's like
absolute neglect.
The opposite is what's needed, is like to go to the source of the pain, which is very valid, but to love yourself out of it, not to put targets and the country watching you while you're unraveling the root of so much pain for you. Like, I just think it doesn't make sense in my brain. I'm like, that is a valid journey, but not one that we should be privy to. Like, that's a very personal thing for you. And like, I feel, you know, actually, I don't know, maybe those people are comfortable with it. Obviously they are, they're on TV, but I suppose for me, you know, my own journey back to self-love, so deep and so hard and so raw and vulnerable, that like exposing that level of vulnerability on such a wide level, and adding targets, and then having the whole country behind you, and then having a relapse when you don't have that support and that you know, network of experts. of course that's not sustainable. Do you know, the sustainable thing is mindset change, is lifestyle change, is a turn towards self-love, compassion and embodiment. A slow descent into the body is where the sustainable change happens.
Yeah, because like a really common like situation I come across, and definitely like some clip of an episode like I saw, was that like the person's life was definitely all work and no play. Do you know what I mean? Like it was a unsustainable amount of work in a day and in a week, and there was no rewards. So like, as in, if there's not inbuilt rewards into our day and into our week, we can pretend we don't need rewards. But then we have to be honest that like, okay, there's a huge likelihood you're going to finish a share bag of something. Because come on, like there has to be some light at the end of the tunnel. And like a huge thing that I see as well with clients is like women especially, we can feel like martyrs. And I think martyrdom is when our battery is already empty and we're still giving. So like they're giving to their job, they're giving to their kids, they're giving to their house, they're giving to the husband. Then the husband's like, can I go away on a golf trip? They're like, yeah, but they mean no. Yeah. And so like he's away on a Saturday or whatever, they're just grazing away or getting a takeaway by themselves.
It's stuffing down the feeling.
Yeah, and it's like it's a super weak form of comfort, because it's like on the scheme of comfort, joy, making memories, eating a bag of Doritos is not that memorable. Like you're not going to positive like, but you know, just in terms of like, I'm not shaming someone for doing it, but what I'm saying for me is that I realize it's not enough. Yeah. It's not that it's too much. It's not that like, that's too much for you, now less. Yeah. It's that there's already lack in your day. Like why you're here is because there's lack in your day, in your emotions and how you're feeling. Again, and you deserve more than this.
I know, but that point of reaching for the bag of Doritos is the best thing that person can do. And if they knew better, they would do better. And I think that just, even if that's all anyone got from the podcast, is that reaching for the bag of Doritos, yes, it may give you temporarily comfort, but there is more to reach for. And actually that awareness alone is enough.
Yes.
That's enough. Like
yes.
It's if you are saying yes to everything when you really mean no, even though you can't really hear the no, but there is a body knowing, a somatic knowing. It might be a sense of a drop in the body when they ask to go on the golf trip, and your body goes, how am I going to carry all of that now? And then you say yes anyway, and then you reach for the bag of Doritos. So the link is, maybe there's some part of me that needs more and is reaching for some kind of fulfillment, and I'm doing that through food. Actually, is there another way to be fulfilled? And if there is, what would that look like for me? And so if we're used to always saying yes to things when we say no, it feels terrifying, because there's a part of us, a small inner child part of us, that again, similar to the other survival mechanisms, we learn very young, in order to be loved, we must always say yes. We must always be a people pleaser, because when we please people, people will love us. But actually, people pleasing is self-abandonment, and so is overeating, and so is that, you know, and they're all linked to the same behaviors. So if we could actually become aware that it is safe for us to begin to say no to things, to begin to say no to the extra bag of Doritos, to begin to actually look towards a new form of nourishment, a new form of relationship or a way of relating, that's how our lives change, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I kind of think as well that like, by the time we're overeating or we need to overeat, it's kind of almost like jumping out of a plane with no parachute, like you're in it now. So there's a lot of times that maybe we can't reel back in that moment, maybe. And this is why I kind of think it's so powerful if we can move towards reflection and learning rather than guilt. Because guilt and making ourselves wrong, like we lose all the detail, all the nuances, all the learning from, no, wait a second, like how come I'm doing this now, but I didn't need to do this yesterday night? Like there's a difference. There's a difference with what went on in the day if we're doing it now and we didn't do it yesterday. Whereas if we feel guilt and shame and just make it fundamentally wrong, there's no learning. We're just putting ourselves deeper into the muck because we're like, I'm the bad guy, I'm broken, I'm damaged, rather than learning and moving forward. And I kind of think like overeating is when we've put our hand in the fire, it's the burn next day. That's what overeating is. So like if you were looking at the burn next day and you're like, that shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be there. It's wrong that burn is there. It's like, you're kind of missing the point. Like the burn is there because your hand was in the fire. And it's the same with like, move off the focus of the overeating. Move off the focus. Like it's kind of like what got you to that point. Do you know what I mean? And also like we have to kind of realize that we're always doing things with a positive intention. So like if we are reaching for a share bag or a bottle of wine or whatever, we're doing it with a positive intention to feel better. So we're not the bad guys for wanting to feel better. So then we have to assess what's making me feel bad. I don't really want to be in this mood or this form on a daily basis or very often. Yet again, I don't want to be putting my hand in the fire over and over again. So I want to learn to what got me here, and then also realize, okay, overeating is one coping skill. It's not necessarily wrong.
It's the best thing you can do.
It's one coping skill. And then we need to assess kind of more bird's eye vision of, say it's 8 p.m. and we're like, okay, so I know how this rodeo goes. You know, I eat the share bag or whatever. I know how I'll feel brushing my teeth later. I know how I'll feel looking in the mirror. I know how I'll feel going into bed. Like I've been on this rodeo so many times. I know exactly how it pans out. And then also, what are my other options? So say if I was getting into bed at 10:30 tonight and I was actually feeling like loved, cared for, supported, whatever that may be, I was feeling nice, you know, and then work backwards from that. What would that involve? Because food might still be part of the remedy for your evening, but it might also be other things too that make you feel good.
Hey, it's Trisha here. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Just to let you know, I host women's circles in Cura Wellness, just across from Kilkenny Castle. But I also am hosting private events, as hens, birthdays, or any special events that you have. I create bespoke women's circles. And I also am hosting day retreats and weekend retreats all around Ireland. So if you want to find out more, look me up at trishanorton.ie, on Instagram and TikTok at trishanorton.ie. Thanks for listening. Shame is learned very young for many different reasons, but the part of us that says I'm wrong, I'm bad, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, X, Y, and Z, that part of us that has that voice, that again is a survival technique, because when we were young we couldn't make our parents wrong or our caregivers wrong, so we were like, okay, I'm obviously the problem, I need to figure out how I can be better so I can be loved more. And so that, you know, again, it stems back to that childhood trauma piece, like whatever. And trauma isn't like this massive thing. It could be emotionally unattuned parents, you know, that's really hard for you to be unseen or rejected or suppressed for what you felt. And so that's following through into adulthood, where you're emotionally not attuned to yourself, you're rejecting your own feelings and not attuned to your own body, which is absolutely understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. But while you're not attuned, you're doing behaviors that are leading to feelings that may be worse. And so then after that, then you shame yourself for feeling bad because you weren't attuned. And then it's just like a cycle. It's like a shit layer cake. It's what I always say, my shit layer cake. So it's
pushing us further down.
So like, we know the shame is there. That's okay. Okay. You know, like just to be present with like the fact that, okay, I am really hard on myself. And I was doing that because I thought I had to work really, really hard to be loved. And so that's hard. And actually just being with that shame is enough. And maybe the next time we can hear, okay, actually, do I need to eat that bag of crisps? Because the last time I did that, I felt really shit and I didn't like feeling shit. Maybe I could just have a few. And so there's like just, it's about coming out of the black and white extreme thinking
Yeah.
and building more space gently towards a wider lens. Because like to go from the trauma lens, which is very narrow, very, very critical focus, very survival focus, very like very hard and black and white. The more balanced, bigger capacity adult, present view is obviously bird's eye view. But it's very difficult to swing from black and white to bird's eye when black and white is your survival every day, all day. To have the bird's eye involves a lot of space
and creativity.
Yeah.
And
your body remembers when you don't listen to it too, right? So all of that backlog as well is really hard on your body. And so building that trust with your body and it is really interesting because while we begin to build that trust with the body, it feels weird.
Yeah.
Like it's like, I don't know, like, what do you mean I can just have what do you mean I can just not do that really hard thing? I can just not do it. What do you mean? What do you mean I can sit on the couch and rest? Like, what do you mean I can, like, and it feels weird when you do it. Like, be prepared for the fact that your body's like, I do not know what to do with this.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's like learning a new skill, retraining a new muscle. And so while you slowly shift towards self-attunement, self-compassion, self-love, it will feel unfamiliar because it is unfamiliar.
This is it.
It doesn't mean it's wrong. Like
choosing to not call yourself wrong and not shame yourself and to learn instead. Like, because, as in all aspects of eating and weight issues are control.
Yeah.
Control and familiarity. And it's kind of almost our control to say, no, I'm wrong. It was a bad day.
Yeah.
Because if the last 4,000 days we've said that to ourselves, like, it's like jumping off a cliff to not do that.
Yeah.
To not say,
actually maybe
it's exactly. But like, this is why in some senses we have to be committed to moving forward. This is kind of sorting out eating and weight issues can be a bit of like survival for who wants it the most, because it can be a lot to process and change in our mind.
It's huge.
So it's not all easy. So like that can feel like jumping off a cliff, deciding, do you know what? I'm not going to call today bad.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not going to say that I was wrong for eating the tub of Ben and Jerry's last night. What if I just didn't call myself wrong for that? Because at some point as well, we have to be the voice of reason. And I remember when I was working in London, like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And like in between clients, I was just listening to Gabby Bernstein and YouTube stuff. So like, their power, their confidence, their self-love, their self-respect, like I was having a huge influence of that. So then the voice of reason and my own overeating was that, like, say I was feeling really crap. So I had a whole romantica to myself or something. I could kind of, rather than making myself wrong, I could be like, okay, Aoife, you wanted to feel better, there was it's not your fault you felt bad. You're a human. There's going to be times there's going to be times you feel bad. So you felt really bad and you wanted to feel better. So, okay, cool. Let's assess that tool. Did it work? Yeah. Like, did the romantica work? Did you feel better from it? And I think another thing, like you said there, is having a few crisps rather than a lot. And that can be so hard to move to when we're used to dieting, black and white thinking and portion sizes. And I kind of think a good way of knowing how much is the right amount is that, first of all, those foods are only invented as a taste experience. Like, it's like an experience. And like the science of like high tasting foods is that like the first bite is bliss, and then the second one a little less so, and the little one a little less so. So we deserve to feel better, and we deserve to play ball with the amazing foods out there and not miss out on the experience. But we were ultimately opening that pack to feel better.
Yeah.
So we need to be clear on what we do want and what we don't want. So what we do want is we want the taste experience. What we are not willing to do is have the ick. Yeah. We are not willing to, we are going to bow out when our belly is changing from
this is nice to like,
Yeah.
I feel a bit sick.
Yes.
Like I'm done now.
Yeah, because we have to remember the original goal. We are opening that packet to feel better, and we deserve to feel better.
I know, but the attunement to the belly is a big thing.
Because our mind is way louder than the belly.
Exactly.
If we've done lots of dieting and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. So the tuning into the belly is the you know, I'm such a fan of yoga. I want to get back to the exercise piece. But
yes, I know. How do we do this? We always do, like, it's like we jinx it. If there's a topic, we won't talk about it.
But for me, that's why yoga was so powerful when I trained at this, like Sarah Fox, everybody Sarah Fox she's my teacher. She's amazing. But her work is so powerful. You know, and the yoga itself is so powerful, but that I made a conscious decision not to do the yoga training in like 3 weeks in India, like intense. I was like, no, like my body needs a year-long course where I do it over like every third weekend. And as I learned it, I practice it now. You know, I practice it really gently. And yoga can sometimes be like, people think it's like Lululemons and like, you know, chai lattes. And I'm like, yeah, it can be that. But like for me, it's just a way for me to sit on the mat and be like, hi body, how are you? You know, where's my soul at today? And I just go about moving my toes and my ankles and my knees and my hips and my arms. I feel into where I need to move, where stuck, is my neck stiff, and I breathe and I expand my lungs and I fold forward. And, you know, like it is literally as simple as, where's my body at today? And like that practice of that simple 10 minutes, 20 minutes, it could be 2 hours some mornings.
Yeah.
But the ability to sit on the mat and be with my body, to feel my lungs expand, and those expanding lungs expand my ribs, my belly rise and fall, feel the breath go through my nose, fold forward and feel the whole back side of my body stretch as I fold forward, to move my arms and understand that my shoulders are tight, you know, to move my neck and know that like, oh, I really was like impacted by what I did yesterday. So like that, a level of attunement to the body means that it's incremental over time, and we can bring that into outside the mat.
Yeah.
Right? We bring it to the table when we eat, because we're like, God, I feel really like, I'd like yuck, like I just want to like finish, like I don't want more of this because I feel like my body's definitely had enough.
Yeah.
Or I feel really heavy, like I really do not feel like doing an intense run on a treadmill. I really feel like maybe doing like a light swim or like, you know, a bit of a walk in sunshine because I haven't seen sunlight, you know.
Yes.
That it's like this multifaceted nourishment that you're like, actually, what do I need? Not just in food, but in movement, in fresh air, in breath, in company, in love, in life, in like my clothes, in like, you know, nature. Like the body is not removed from nature. Therefore you cannot make yourself a stagnant thing that gets shoved around. Like you are as nature is. You are cyclical, you are seasonal, you are changing with day and night, with the sun and the moon, with the seasons. It's just so much bigger than I feel shit, I am a shit person. Like, no, like you're this immense, complex, but perfectly designed, like human being with a soul and a heart and emotions. And when you begin to look at yourself beyond just being something that needs to be controlled and restricted or abused and hated, then you become just such a bigger, it's like, I don't know, you're like a masterpiece. Yeah. You know, that you're always tending to.
And your masterpiece, you can be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the same time. And I kind of think that that's oh my god, I keep forgetting my points. But that's the whole thing, right? Because even like it's a, you know, so fear is all from the mind, false evidence appearing real. And when we're in fear, lots of fear about our body or our weight, there's a whole other side we're not seeing.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's
we
a
were
narrow
talking
lens.
about this. It's a very narrow lens, and it's not the whole picture.
And sorry to interrupt, but and the fear, when we're in fear, we are in survival or trauma.
Yes.
Because fear is fight or flight. And
Yeah.
that is like our amygdala being like triggered and our animal self being like, we need to survive here.
Yeah,
and so when we need to survive, our lens really, really tightens.
Yeah.
When we're like chilling out in a meadow, being like, everything's great. Like you can see the stars and the birds or the trees or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when there's a lion chasing you, you are narrow focus. And so that's what it feels like. It feels like death, whatever the reason is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And like, it's a super common thing with eating and weight issues for people to feel stuck. And like that, like if you ever feel stuck with your eating and your weight, be very clear that that is only a story of the mind, because there isn't a cell in your body that existed 7 years ago. Like your body is marching forward with or without you. Yeah. Like your body every single day is transforming and changing and aging, and you get a say in it. So the us being stuck in the like, I'm stuck, I'm not moving forward, I'm not moving forward. Like yet again, the problem with that mindset is you're missing all these opportunities. Like you could have a 20-minute walk today.
Yeah.
You could have a green juice. That's you taking a vote on the direction you want your body to go to next. That your body is always evolving, and we get a say in how it feels. And with that, then I think we get to break it down to small choices that, like, you know, especially when you kind of see the bigger picture of your body evolving, like kind choices add up. And it's such a nicer way of seeing it than the scales. Like, yet again, if people are using a weighing scales, they're so blinded. Like, they're learning all the wrong lessons. Because that's another thing I wanted to mention. Like, exercise and weighing yourself is a real, like, don't mix those two things. And it's a real, like, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because the things that burn calories in our body are our bones, our muscles, or organs. Technically, I would say the dream is you weigh way heavier than you look. Because if you weigh heavier than you look, it means you have a lot of lean body mass that's burning a lot of calories, and you get to eat more than other people your weight. And so if we're exercising, we are supporting our lean body mass, which is creating a better metabolism. And it means that when we're sitting on the couch at Christmas Day, us this year, if we've done more exercise versus last year with less exercise, even sitting on the couch or sitting in a car, because that muscle exists, we're burning more calories. So like, I just kind of think, like letting go of a weight problem is slow anyways. You know, it's slow because it has to happen on multiple levels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, as in, say a really hard one for me was, you have to stop talking like the fat friend. So like, you can't be kind of like, oh geez, don't show me the Pringles, like, and you can't be like, oh sure, I'm bait into the stress. And like, you know, just shaming yourself on your eating.
But it's almost like you're doing that ahead of what you expect people to say.
Exactly.
Like you're projecting your own stuff outwards. Like,
but practically changing that is not an overnight thing. Like I still fall into the trap. Like if people are bitching about their bodies, you know, I might sometimes take the bait. And it's a lie. It's a people-pleasing lie because I love my body and I've worked in healthcare long enough that I am not going to wait until I've a breast cancer diagnosis to love my breasts. Like, touch wood. Like, as in, I am going to love every part of my body. So no matter how I age or what illnesses I get in the future, I won't have any regrets that I wasn't, like, seeing and aware of what I have now. You know what I mean? But, like, that's just one level of moving on from a weight problem. The self-deprecating humor, like, that has to go. But also, like, say us starting to exercise more or starting to do Zumba or like trapeze yoga or something, or meeting up with a friend more often in the week and going for walks, like something super pleasant and that we love and we're gaining a love for, like to then measure that against the scales is just wrong on so many levels. Like, you know, scientifically from a weight loss perspective, because yet again, it's like you might be building lean body mass. This is a good thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's just the general theme anyway, that I think if we knew how slow our body, like basically, because to naturally let go of our weight, because our body is so kind, it's not going to compromise things. Like, it's not going to compromise the health of your heart or the health of your brain or the health of your hormones or your menstrual cycles for the sake of weight loss. Whereas on diets, it's like, screw all the other processes in the body. Like, whatever happens, happens. Let's just get down the weight. Whereas when we're letting go of weight naturally, it's like, well, we want to keep everything
balanced.
Optimum health. We want to make sure there's sufficient calories and nutrients for all the processes of my body, but just no longer maintain the excess that was coming from foods I didn't like and enjoy. And like I say, I think if people really knew how slow weight loss is, if we're biting into a biscuit and it's fundamentally not nice, you would not be willing to house that other part of the biscuit. Like, you're not willing to house it because it will be housed.
You'll feel, but like, I feel that instant rejection in my mouth now. Do you know when you bite into something
important,
and you're like, oh my God, I actually can't even eat this. Like, it's like an instant rejection, you know?
Yeah, but I got really logical because I was just like, you know, the mantra of a weight problem is, I'll be better tomorrow, I'll be better next week. And it's kind of like, I had to be really being like, Aoife, how many days have you actually said that and then actually had been that good the next day? Because, you know, for lots of good reasons as well, we're not good at calorie restriction. Like, that's a good thing to not be good at calorie restriction, but it just means that me eating this thing that I'm not actually enjoying, and I kind of know the moment's over, or my belly's really full, I'm actually just not going to house that.
Yeah.
You know, rather than saying I'll work that off later in the future, which might or might not happen, and once we accept that might be a slow process, let's just not create the workload.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to hold out for profiteroles later or whatever. Like, let's just not house this thing because it's not even worth it, you know? So yeah. Also another point I wanted to bring up, because I know this is already really long. Oh my God, where is time gone? We set a timer to stop 25 minutes ago. Oh my God. Okay, but I think, you know, another one is, don't waste time on what's not working. You know, like, just like in relationships and stuff as well. Like, as in, if you're not vibing with the guy or whatever, let's like maybe stop it and move on, because it's like, if you're not vibing now, that's hardly going to be an awesome marriage or something. And I was just thinking, you know, when you were like saying that you were making yourself run and you were getting knee pain and everything, like, the end of the story anyway was at some point you accepted, hey,
I hate running.
I
run like a duck.
Like, let's just speed up that process. Like, as in, because I'm the same with running as well. Like, as in, you know, everyone in London was doing it, and it's like, I find it so boring. And it's like, I just kind of think it'd be super powerful to speed up the process, that like the joy is in the journey.
I know, but it's so easy to say that when, like, the reason you're doing that is because you're in a place where you don't know how to leave. You're in a place where you don't know how to choose better. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the reason that you're doing those things.
But there is fun out there.
But
we need
what
to
I'm trying to
remember
say,
that too, I think.
I get that, and we get that now.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to bring in is, I know how I was then. And how I was then did not understand that I could be in a good relationship, be loved for me, do a nice exercise and eat what I wanted when I wanted, and still have a body that I wanted. Me then did not understand that. And that's why I really understand how long it takes to change the mind and the body and the heart and everything to go together towards, oh, there's fun to be had. Well, we can have a lovely time, because you're so used to being in torment or pain or survival that actually to switch towards fun means it's all to do with the nervous system, like, in terms of you have fun when you feel safe. And if you're in constant, like, abusive inner dialogue or threat of like, you know, loss of love, which feels like death, you're not in a space where you're like, do you know what I'll do now is I'll have a lovely time that's nice and balanced and like free of extremes. That's not in the system, because the two can't exist at the same time, because you're either in survival or you can balance out of survival. You can move, the system away from the survival, yes, but until we learn those techniques or those tools, we're not hanging around being like, let's just have a lovely time. We're like always in the mindset of threat and terror. And so, but also on that note as well, in terms of the system, when you were talking earlier about like, being stuck, like that's, we don't talk as often about we talk about fight or flight, but there's freeze and fawn. And so freeze is the stuckness. And that's actually a survival response too, where we can't shame ourselves for being in freeze, for not knowing how to get out of.
But I'm just calling
situations.
Stuckness as a narrative.
Yeah.
It's more of a how they would frame the week, or the month or the year. Yeah. I'm in stuckness. It's actually just a lens we're seeing.
But that is a trauma lens though. That stuckness is a trauma lens where you feel powerless to change, because it's actually a really early developmental survival thing. As a child, like pre-verbal, you have very little power over a circumstance that feels more powerful than you. So actually the best thing to do would just be to do nothing and play dead, because then they might leave you alone.
Yes. Yes.
And so that actually carries through into adulthood, where you're like, if we haven't learned to mobilize out of that play dead survival technique, we will think that we have no control or power to leave relationships or circumstances or weight, or eating habits or whatever. We feel powerless, and actually, to anyone who feels like that, I really, really, really see you, and I really have so much compassion, because it is so hard. Because on top of that freeze, we're shaming ourselves.
Yes, and also because I think like more about all of that.
Yeah.
And I accept all of that, and that is like one journey.
Yeah.
But then I do think it's very important that it's like, this is what is true for me emotionally, and this is the journey I'm on.
Yeah.
But I do think from a scientific level, we have to be like, it feels like that's true for my body, but my body is actually always marching forward. My body is different from how it was a year ago.
Oh, physically, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, definitely.
Like we have, because sometimes people get very sad about, I have been stuck for 5 years. It's like, your body fundamentally is different from 5 years ago.
Your life is different too.
And I think we have to just be kind of clear on that, because to weed out the old negative voices that demotivate us, I just honestly think science and fact is very helpful.
I think for some people, for me, science and fact is not helpful. For me, it was very much about like meeting my emotional self. But we're very different.
We are very different, because I'm just like, for me, sometimes it's helpful to be like, that's fundamentally untrue. Do you know what I mean? That's really helpful for me. Like, as in, you can keep justifying this, but like, it's fundamentally untrue. Or, that angle on a lot of things, even like, I'm wrong to eat chocolate last night. It's like, you think you're the only person in Ireland who ate chocolate last night?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, as in,
that approach wouldn't work for me.
Wow.
The approach that works for me is, because I'm so sensitive, and not that you're not sensitive, but I'm really...
I can be a little alpha, like a little kind of...
I'm like very...
That's just wrong,
Yeah, whereas I'm like, God, you must have been feeling really sad, because I need that emotional attunement in order to get me out of that.
But see, there's being sad, and I'm accepting the whole sad thing, but the whole wallowing victim-y, no one eats as badly as you... No one eats ice cream on a Saturday night. What the hell is wrong with you? Needing or wanting to lose weight and eating ice cream. I just think jumping outside of ourselves and being like, it's actually quite dramatic to say that it's wrong.
I know.
Like, we can be going through something, and we are going through something, and we are where we are, but saying our behaviour was ridiculously wrong isn't accurate. Do you know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying. And I get what you're saying,
but I disagree.
But it just like, I know what you're saying. It is wrong, but the antidote for me is compassion. That's just for me. It has to be compassion. It has to be like.
But compassion is being like, you're not weird. For me, that's compassion, is saying you're not weird. This is a acceptable response to sadness. People respond to sadness like this sometimes. You're not alone.
It feels too fact-based for me. When, like, it's not like that. Just my whole body's like, why is she being so direct? Please stop being so direct.
Oh man.
Where I need
to like quit my job and change career now. I'm like, what?
No, because I need the mother. I need the mother. That's what my remedy
But
is.
sometimes your mom is like petting, you know?
No, I know what you're saying. I just don't respond well to like alpha directness when I'm in that space of very, very soft, like of pain. I need the mother. That's why my whole.
But being really mean to yourself, like that has to be reeled in some way.
Yeah, but for me, it never works with that energy. It just like I'd be like, oh, if it makes me feel worse. For me, that's why my whole life is devoted to the Great Mother. I mean, there's a reason there's Marys and like all types of goddesses everywhere I go, because for me, the goddess is the version of the goddess that I worship is the Great Mother, because that's my medicine.
Do you know what? Two truths can be true at once.
But that's what I'm saying.
Because there's a minor urge for me to continue and break you down.
It won't be true for me.
I know, but
I can feel it in
but
my
I
body.
do think like two truths are true at once, because
it works for you.
Also, I kind of think there's maybe a mild misunderstanding for what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying, but my body I can feel it in my body. I can feel my body being like, it makes me feel like I did something wrong. So that's why in my body I'm like.
But I'm saying literally the opposite. If lots of people do it, it's not that you're not separate. Okay, we'll move on.
Just edit that part out.
Yeah. And
okay, we have to go because
we
it's
have
like 12 o'clock.
We have to go. We've done a lot. I appreciate you for listening. I hope you found this helpful. If there's anything, if you've any like questions or comments or whatever, I'd love your feedback. Because actually, people say they actually, you know, people say they love the podcast, and the most random people say it to me. But I don't actually get like a lot of direct feedback, or you know, if there's anything you want us to talk about, or if you want to say that Trisha's wrong and I'm right. I'm open to that.
I'm
joking.
I'm saying there's different medicine for different people.
And there is.
There's different medicine.
There is. You're just rocking my world now.
Yeah, but but it's not like what you're doing is wrong. It's just I know what I need, the medicine I need. That's just me. I know what I need.
It's super important. And I suppose that's pretty much kind of what we're saying and encouraging anyway. Yeah, that we have to find our own road.
That works for you because you're like, Aoife is amazing at being so practical. Like if I'm like, Aoife, what's happening? She's like, no, reality is this. And I'm like, but I just want to live in dreamland. She's like, no, reality. And I need that friend to give me reality. Like, and you're so practical and good at practical things. Like, not my strength, which is why I
needed to give the other side.
I need the other side.
Yeah.
Like the other side for me, that's my gift, and that's what I hold. You know, all my workshops and my groups and my stuff like that. That's where I'm like so soft and nurturing. I'm like, yeah, that's because that's my medicine. That's what I've just developed. Like I've developed that medicine because it was the medicine I needed, and that's why I feel so authentic to me, is because I had to internally create the medicine that.
And it's also the yin to the yang that you were before. But can I just say as well,
finally,
like when you were saying all that as well, I was like confidence really is the ability to be like, everyone around you loves running, and you being like, oh, cool, interesting. Running doesn't work for me, or you know, lots of people being like, oh, I love. You know, I don't know, I binge chocolate on Saturday nights or whatever. It's like, oh, interesting. I'm more of a latte in a Yorkie bar for breakfast type of girl.
Yeah, I'm like, I always say that. I'm like, yeah, you're a chocolate person. I'm a crisp person. I go down the crisp rabbit hole. Yeah. I love a crisp.
Yeah.
I just love a crisp.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah, they don't work for me. They never scratch the itch. They just don't. There's no, yeah. Anyways, okay. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate you. And yeah. See you next time.